remarkable. And I'm honored. I'm honored to be here this morning together with so many friends. Longtime friends like Congressman John Lewis, who's not here, but is a man who first time I came to this chapel was with John, and walked over that bridge and literally prepared. This is the guy who literally was prepared to give his life like many of you. And Reverend Sharpton. Rev, where I come from, we're not looking for masters, we're looking for servants. That's how I was raised. So don't get confused, old buddy. I was raised to be a servant, not a master. Because I know what it's like. I know not like you do, but I know what it's like being raised as an Irish Catholic in a town that didn't like Catholics. I get it, okay? And when you stutter like I did, you get made fun of. You learn how to beat up bullies. You know what I mean? And so look, I'm not kidding. It's all about, not a joke. Not a joke. I'm kidding with Reverend. Now we've known each other for a long time. But it's about serving. That's how y'all were raised. That's how I was raised in my house. It was not supposed to be about you. It's supposed to be about somebody else. And in our church, my church, I happen to be the first Catholic ever elected statewide in the state of Delaware. And by the way, I was telling your pastor, I spent a lot of time in church. I got involved in the civil rights movement in Delaware when I was a young kid. And so I used to go to 7:30 Mass and then go to Reverend Henry's church at 9 to 1. And hey Jesse, how you doing, man? And so, look, the fact of the matter is there's an awful lot to be proud of here, all of you at Brown Chapel. You know, Senator Jones is one of the guys who demonstrates a conviction that few people have. This is a guy who went back and refused to wait, refused to settle until he put those Klansmen back in jail. And he took a courageous vote. Everybody told me vote the right way because of the violation of the Constitution of the president, he'd be in trouble. But that's why I've loved him. That's why I worked with him since he was a student in law school here. I mean that sincerely. Thank you, Doug, for all you've done. And, not only I learned, you all know your Congresswoman. You all know her. Yeah. But what you don't know, maybe you do know, she chairs the Ways and Means Committee. That's where all the money is. And guess what? Two things you got to know about her. One, she's a congresswoman. Two, she's smarter than you. And you're smarter than me. And I just want to pay my respects to President Abrams. Vice President. What are you talking about? Vice President, man. She'll be a president. She can be anything she wants to be. And I'll do anything I can to help her as well. And Mayor Mellon, I want to thank you for the keys for the passport to get in the city, and also thank you for your endorsing me, along with the Mayor Randall Whitman from Birmingham. He's a great friend as well. And there's so many other elected officials here. You know, we gather here in the eve of the 55th anniversary of Bloody Sunday, and to recognize that this is the place, Brown Chapel, which is holy ground for all of us who were even tangentially involved in the movement far away. Not just because we're in God's house, because this was the new cradle of liberty for this nation. The New Testament of our American creed. And I mean that. Think about it. Blessed by the power and by purpose of those who marched out of this chapel to face whatever awaited them on the other side of Edmund Pettus Bridge. Brown's Chapel, sanctified by blood and tears of those who sought shelter from the onslaught afterwards. For the heroes like John Lewis, and it's not hyperbole, sis, John Lewis is a hero. John Lewis is a flat-out hero. It was permanently written into his contributions, permanently written into his flesh and his blood. And on an unfailing, unrelenting understanding of what is right and what is unjust. For so many of us who watched at home in safety on that day characterized on television, surrounded by our families and protected by our skin color, the brutality of that moment scorched our souls. But until we reached the crux of the bridge, as I was able to do in the 47th anniversary, I thought I understood it. But I never fully understood the fact as you come over the crest of that bridge and you look down, and I could picture what I saw all those days on television. Men, state troopers on horses and billy clubs, covering the whole area, making it impossible to continue. But you continue down the bridge. You gave everybody in America a sense of hope. You know, it's hard to comprehend how much courage it took to continue down that bridge. It's hard to understand. But I tell you what, that Sunday denied America of the last vestige of complicity. What it did was it made us all have to look and understand exactly what was happening. We thought in Delaware we knew because we have the 8th largest black population in America in Delaware. And I thought I understood because I watched it. I got involved as a kid in the movement. But until you saw that, until you saw it earlier, you saw, Bull Connor and his dogs in Birmingham. Until you saw that, nobody could close their eyes anymore. They couldn't pretend. The rest of the world that didn't live with African Americans in their midst, they couldn't any longer pretend. And it ripped like lightning through the halls of Washington, electrifying President Johnson to finally drive the Voting Rights Act through the United States Congress. And I'm honored to stand with all of you today, not just to celebrate how far we've come in the last 55 years, though surely we have. You've moved mountains. You don't have to look any further than 5 years ago to prove that fact. Look what happened. When I get up in the morning, sometimes I wonder whether it's 1920 or 2020. No, I'm serious. Think about it. When you turn that television on, think about it. You just have to go back 5 years ago and listen to Barack Obama reflect on what it meant to be the first African-American president. Where 50 years prior, so many were beaten, trampled, and terrorized. The moral arc of history, as he said, is easy to celebrate, but the truth is always a lot more complicated than that. Even that moment President Obama spoke in the wake of Ferguson and Black Lives Matter and the movement and pricking the national consciousness even more, we knew that our marching days were not over. We knew that there was still much more progress to be won and it was going to be hard fought. The truth is, just 5 years later, we've been dragged backwards and we've lost ground. We've seen all too clearly how if you give hate any breathing room, it comes back. It comes back. Roadblocks we weren't facing aren't the state troopers any longer. They're folks in $1,000 suits and $2,000 suits. But their ideology is the exact same. White supremacy is an evil in our society, and we still have to fight it at every single turn, no matter what they're wearing. Selma, just like Birmingham before, was an inflection point in our history, a movement that opened the eyes too long shut. Others in the country just didn't want to know. Don't bother me with it. I don't want to admit it's that bad. Injustices, the brutality of racism, and segregation, discrimination, and forever put this country on a different path. In the words of Dr. King, he said, quote, the confrontation of good and evil compressed in that tiny community of Selma generated a massive power to turn the whole nation to a new course. That was the inflection point back then. And one of the lessons from that moment is transformative change in our country sometimes progresses fastest when we're at our lowest point. Sometimes those who fan the flames of hate end up drawing forth the next great wave of progress and protest. Today, we again face another such point, and we have a choice to make. We're all called, once again, to put our shoulders to the wheel, to turn this country away from injustice. And I'm convinced we can do it if we do it together. I know we can. This is the proof. We're the proof. Ultimately, that's what it comes down to. What we always have known. It comes down to power. Who holds it? Who defines it? Who denies it? Now, in this house, we know who is the kingdom and the power. But as Scripture says, my grace is sufficient for you. For my power is made perfect in weakness. In Corinthians. So I've never believed there's anything weak about the power of decency and honor like this president tries to make it seem. I've never believed, wasn't raised to believe that anything was weak about getting knocked down. My dad would say, it's not whether you get knocked down, it's how quickly you get up. How quickly you get up. What happened with that bridge, as you all know, is continues to struggle for power. And here's what those marchers knew 55 years ago. And what George Wallace and those state troopers knew too. And what every politician in America knows today. In a democracy, true power is the vote. Is the vote. And that's why the Selma March was so dangerous to the power centers in Montgomery. That's why strong voting protections weren't included in the Civil Rights Act the year before. And that's why 25 states, half of our states in the last 10 years, have made it harder for people to vote. And make no mistake about it, you all know it, I'm preaching to the choir here, you all know it. That struggle is still alive today in 2020, today. Voter suppression is real. Just ask Stacy, she's going to talk about it in a minute. We all have to fight anew for laws, the firm protections of Voting Rights Act, that make sure it's easier for people to exercise that right. You should be able to, when you turn 18, automatically be registered to vote. Period. Voting is how we determine the direction of a nation, where we stand in the moments of this inflection point. Voting is how we choose the purpose for which we're going to use our power. How we choose to unite America, to deal and not sow more divisions and anger. We have to choose not only to fight for the country, and I get criticized for saying this, we also have to choose to heal this country. We have to choose to end the kind of leadership that prizes division, fuels and feeds the worst impulses of our nature, without becoming part of that culture. We have to choose to let loose the grip of our history and make real the promise of this country, not with words but with our actions. And not tomorrow, but today. It takes real investment in our schools, so our children's future is determined by their zip code. Real progress to provide capital for black entrepreneurs to build businesses, realize their dreams, and build the ability to generate wealth, and to end every discriminatory practice in housing where black families can build real wealth. Not tomorrow, but today. Real criminal justice reform that remakes the whole paradigm of punishment to rehabilitation. People sent to jail should be sent to be rehabilitated, not to be punished. When they get out of jail, they serve their time, they should have every single right that every other citizen has, including the right to vote. Vote. Real investment in finding cures, which we can do for diabetes, for cancer, for Alzheimer's. Not tomorrow, but today. It's within our power to do these things. And finally, we have to heal our divisions and repair this democracy. You know, after Charlottesville, I said that I believe we're in a battle for the soul of America. And I say it again today. We are in a battle for the soul of this nation. And here in Brown Chapel, there's no more powerful reminder of what's at stake or what we're fighting for. Not to go back to some nostalgic time that never existed. Not just to go back to where we were 5 years ago, but to propel this nation forward beyond where we were 5 years ago. To build a more perfect union. You know, all the animating promises of this nation that all men are created equal and never fulfilled. Jefferson wrote the words, he never lived up to it either. No, he didn't. And failed, but that failure doesn't diminish the power of those words. I believe they're still the North Star of this nation, always pulling us toward justice. Dr. King said it after his I Have a Dream speech. He said, this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of the creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. These words not only were made more precious and more worthy of our effort because of the blood that has been shed and the pursuit of that promise, whether it's in Selma, Birmingham, Ferguson, or Baltimore. And Dr. King proclaimed when the march finally made it to Montgomery 2 weeks and 3 weeks and 3 attempts later, he said, we are on the move. We won't slow down. We won't stop. We won't turn back. That's the power of Selma. And may it live in all of us today and every day. Because I promise you, what we cannot become, we cannot let our anger, when we gain power, rule us like it has the other party and this president. We not only have to fight, we have to heal. And we can. And the rest of the country is ready. Folks, look, this president has ripped the Band-Aid off. There's two ways people get inspired. They get inspired by people who are uplifting, by the Abraham Lincolns, by the Franklin Roosevelt, the John Kennedys, the Martin Luther Kings, by the Barack Obamas. But they also get inspired by very bad people. Really. We're the second inflection point. Donald Trump has shown us the side of humanity that has no sense of compassion, has no empathy whatsoever, doesn't understand who we are, doesn't understand anything about why we go to church, because we believe that we have an obligation to our brothers and sisters. And folks, that's who we are at our core. And so thank you for giving me an opportunity to come back. As every time I walk out of my grandfather Finnegan's house up in Scranton, as it was falling apart, Scranton, he yelled, "Joey, keep the faith." And my grandmother would yell, "No, Joey, spread it. Go spread the faith."